Hi, everyone. It's Amanda Rieger Green. Welcome to Soul Sessions. Today, we're going to dive into the February energy forecast. And I have great information to share, insights and downloads because they are coming through. And February is an incredibly fertile month. And when I say that, I mean not so much in this extroverted creativity, but this internally enriching call to action month. And if you've felt the energy of change and disorientation in January, as so many people have expressed to me, and I have felt and experienced myself, it's like we're diving a little deeper, creating more clarity in order for more traction and action, so to speak, to start happening and breakthrough energy. It's coming. So don't quit. And if you're discouraged and exhausted and tired, or you feel the mood swings up and down, look, we're in this together. And it just remember, it is dense, heavy energy moving through your body so we can invite in more light and shift and raise our frequency. I feel it physically. I can feel it emotionally, mentally, and in my energy field. And the best thing I know to do is say, I am okay right now, and go into my spiritual toolkit or ask for help. Or sometimes just let myself be what I am in that moment. And that can be the most challenging thing because if I'm feeling off, there's this unconscious motivation. Amanda, you should be doing this, or you need to be doing this, or you're not doing enough. And I have listened to that rhetoric in my subconscious and done some massive reprogramming, and I'm starting to see a difference. And I want to relate this back to Mars retrograde. We will link in the description, in the show notes, the Mars retrograde podcast, because if you remember, Mars will be retrograde through February 23rd. And it's been retrograde since December 6th. It started out in Leo, which was more about creative self expression, a rewiring of our courage and our energy around our creativity, our joy, our personal expression. But it backed into Cancer, which is deep psychological reprogramming that creates emotional sensitivity. But it is and has been wildly ripe for recognizing unconscious programming that is running the show, that is nonsense, that absolutely is rubbish or outdated rhetoric that our body is operating from. Because what we know scientifically is that the unconscious, our subconscious, runs about 85% of our program, our story, our conscious mind. And we all know that our conscious mind runs 25,000 miles an hour in lots of directions that sometimes we can't keep a hold of. But the unconscious program is running the show. This is the time to pay attention to what operating system is outdated. It's your hard drive, is what's going on. So instead of the software, it's the hardware that gets to be reprogrammed right now. And I'll give you some tools and techniques that have been effective for me and other people that I know as we move through the podcast. But I just wanted to start out by saying, don't quit, dig deeper, trust, really dig your heels in for yourself. You matter. You make a difference. We matter. And we are in this together. You're not alone. I'm not alone. And I tell you what, I was on the phone with a client of mine yesterday, and it has been a tremendously difficult season for her. She left a job that she has been in since 2007 and 2008. And she worked her way all the way up to the top. And she's known for the past couple of years that this season in this job, in this role at this company has been coming to an end. And we were talking about it because she specifically said, hey, if I'm supposed to leave here, God, you're going to have to smack me over the head. And listen, Spirit, God smacked her over the head, and it was challenging throughout Christmas and the holidays. And So she made this about face and has really walked through a lot of fear, pain, change, suffering. I mean, an identity shift, a personal crisis, but the faith was there and the hope, and she's really walked through it one day at a time. But I was on the phone with her yesterday, and here we are at the end of January, hopping into February, and there was so much clarity in her energy field. I said, "Oh my gosh, your energy field, it's you." It felt warm, clear, true, real. There was a resonance in her energy field. I mean, it was unmistakable. And and she has been really delicately taking care of herself and not pushing herself to have the next thing, do the next thing. She has the space and the resources that she has worked her behind off to cultivate that. So rather than jumping into another frying pan, because she's wildly qualified professionally in what she does, but she's given her body space to grieve and to heal and to process and emote. And it's been challenging, as you can imagine. It's created health issues, a multitude of things. But she had two or three wild breakthroughs. Somebody reach out, a job opportunity out of the blue, and she is not job hunting yet. And it's more money, a bigger job, a different thing. And she's already like, gosh, I don't know if I want another job, but like this came through, and she had been so afraid that she wasn't gonna be qualified to do anything, which is not the rational, real truth, but that's the stories we tell ourselves in our mind. It's like, "Oh, who's gonna hire me? What am I gonna do?" And this woman is a VP of a big firm. So just on paper, she's successful and qualified. But as a human and her intelligence and her skill set and experience, she's wickedly qualified. But the story, the programming running underneath is, well, I'm not gonna have a job. Nobody's gonna hire me. Who's gonna hire me with these unique qualifications? And out of the blue, something came, and then some people that she worked with that she was afraid those relationships weren't gonna last, reached out to her and said, "Hey, we miss you. Can we connect and just have lunch? We wanna see you. We wanna know how you're doing." And she said, "They really care about me. Like, they really liked me." And I resonate with this so deeply because that's the other unconscious program that was running is, do people really like me? Do they value me? Did they care that I worked with them and put my time and my heart and my energy I invested in them? Those are the unconscious programs that have been running that she and I have talked about and worked through, but also to start seeing in her energy field reflected the miracles, the gifts, the universe starting to respond to show her who she is and what her soul knows deep down, but the hardware is saying a different thing. And I started crying on the like tears of joy because I was like, "I'm so happy for you, and you're getting to see this, and I see this stuff in you, and it's being reflected back, and you don't have to make any quick decisions yet." And she's patiently, discerningly moving, like, she's not reactive and impulsive, and that's gonna lead into some of the energy this month. But think about steadying yourself this month, taking in what is coming your way and processing and seeing what unconscious program your hard drive needs an upgrade on. And think about the whole month. I love this example, and I give this example sometimes because I think it came through in a session with somebody one day, and I was like, "That's so brilliant." And I've reused it because it's genius. You know how when we do an upgrade on our iPhone or whatever, and we have to turn it off and everything, and when we turn it back on, there's that Apple thing that it's like rebooting that line that goes, "Okay, this month is like you've turned the program back on, and it's a whole reboot month." So, just know the whole month is like a reboot. It doesn't mean there's not gonna be action and traction and things happening, but literally underneath everything, in the behind the scenes intangible, in your cells, your DNA, your psyche, this upgrade, the reboot is going throughout the month. And come March 1st, there is wildly incredible energy. We have unprecedented astrology in March. And any astrologer you listen to, they're like, we've never seen these configurations before with these outer planets. So this month, I am imploring and encouraging all of you to like stay the course, upgrade your hard drive, go through the upgrade and know, like, when it's done, a new operating system is emerging. Trust it. One of the announcements I want to make before I dive into some of the specifics of the numerology and astrology, I am making a little bit of a pivot. It's actually kind of a huge a huge pivot for me, and I have been doing one-on-one client readings since 2015. That's 10 years, y'all. That's 10 years, and I formally left the corporate world in 2016 and started, but I have been doing formal client readings for 10 years, and it has been the wildest ride of my life. It's been the most terrifying, awe-inspiring, incredible thing, and I wanna say something, like, from the bottom of my heart. One of the gifts that has come out of this that I didn't expect, I didn't know, is I have met so many incredible human beings by being connected and doing readings, people that have either become my friends that and clients and people that I would not have gotten to know otherwise, and then people that I know are in my soul tribe. And so I want to thank all of you for what you have gifted me and the privilege of sharing sacred space with you and trusting me to utilize my gifts and the work that you do in the world and with yourselves and your self-awareness, your evolution and transformation. It has been the biggest, greatest gift, of the last 10 years that I didn't know I was gonna receive. So, thank you for that, and the announcement is, as of March 1st, because of what's on my plate and the direction I'm going, I will not be accepting new clients for the time being. I'm not saying I'll never accept new clients because never is like, like that's too much of a broad stroke. But for the time being, I will only be taking existing clients. It's what I can do on my plate, providing this podcast and the resources I am working to get out behind the scenes in astrology and numerology and personal and spiritual development, intuitive development, consciousness. My team is working behind the scenes to create a wonderful supportive ecosystem and community for you. So I need my time and like my energy, my oomph, my creativity for that. So as of March the 1st, I won't be accepting new clients, just existing clients. And saying all that is if you've been wanting to have an individual session with me, now is the time. And yes, it's a big investment. So if it is out of your bailiwick as far as your resource and your pocketbook, don't stress. I'm here. I'm going to be doing the podcast and hopefully be doing more virtual resources, events, interactive things to support you so I can reach out to more people. And by saying that, one ask that I have of you all, my listeners, that I appreciate so much is if you like the podcast, if you love it, please rate, subscribe, share it with a friend because not only does that feel good to me and I appreciate it, and you all know I put a lot of energy into it, it's also because the more people and listeners the podcast reaches, the more resources I will have to get more guests on and to do more for you. So it's kind of a win-win. So just don't forget to rate, like, subscribe, share if that's on your heart and you can do that or you want to do that because it really does help me in boosting the resources I have to give more and do more from all the feedback I get and the things that all you listeners want. And we've been putting the podcast up on YouTube, which is a new thing. We've been doing that the last couple of months. So if you're a YouTuber and you're not subscribing to my YouTube channel and you want to see me talking to you in the podcast, check out YouTube. So I'm on that platform. We've got that active and I'm just excited to be expanding my resources for you because it's what lifts me up. So thank you all. Okay, into February. Let's jump into February. The numerology for February, we are in a 2 month in a 9 year. And there's a little bit of magic to it because we're actually in an 11 month in a 9 year. The 11 is a master number. As all of you know, most of you know, the 11 is the number of the interconnection between the human and the spiritual, the ego and the higher consciousness, the regular human experience and the superhuman experience. the human and the divine, the inner and the outer. It's an energy of duality and dichotomy, but there's a magic to the energy of the master number 11, and it's a magic of manifestation, which means your inner world reflects your outer world. And I've already talked about digging deep and upgrading the hard drive. Like, the numerology supports it, the astrology is supporting it. This is the month to really listen to that unconscious program and recognize it for what it is, and whether it's relevant and supporting your growth, healing, happiness, evolution, or it is limiting you and keeping you playing small. When you add 1 plus 1 in the 11, it reduces down to 2. So we are in a 2 month in a 9 year. What does that mean? Well, if you don't have the guidebook outlines this stuff and gives you all the, crystal recommendations and your journal prompts and how the 2 and the 9 work together. And I referenced it today. I was like, oh yeah, that's what I was going to say. And that's what the energy is. So it's a great roadmap for this and the astrology. And it goes in depth and is more poignant. But the 2 is about partnership. It's, what am I learning through the other? What are other people teaching me? And what am I teaching other people? So it's all about relationships. I mean, I know it's a pain in the behind, but we're human. Relationships are part of the game. They're just part of the nuance of, and they're not a nuance, it's an in your face deal because it's peoply out there. And I like, that's how it can feel. But this month, people are your teachers. And then on the converse side of that, what are you transmitting through your voice, your actions, your communication, your intentions? How are you engaging with people? And how is that maturing? I think this month feels like a month of maturity. Not that we're behaving immaturely. Maybe we are. I can be immature at times, certainly, but how are you maturing? How have you grown in your relationships? Or what relationships are you outgrowing? Because for goodness sakes, we're in a 9 year. 9 is about letting go, it's about closure, the end of a cycle. So it is a really good month to really engage in your relationships, recognizing the ones that are supportive, healthy, uplifting, and the ones that are potentially have run their course. And the beautiful thing about that, when I think about relationships running their course, whether it's professional, personal, familial relationships changing. I mean, we've got our family of origin. In any scenario, romantic relationships, when relationships change, of course, it can be hard. It can be emotional and sensitive and messy because it's people, right? And it's our own feelings and expectations and all the baggage we each individually come with. But what is most helpful to bridge the gap, and if you're going to work with the energy of the 2 and jump up to the higher octave of the 11, here's where you like springboard into something higher, greater, a bigger frequency. It's being able to let go with love, to practice forgiveness, to let go of your grip on the steering wheel in a relationship and trust, oh, I don't know if I'm healthy for this person or this person is healthy for me, or, oh, it's time. They're going. And I have been experiencing tremendous change in January. I have felt the 9 energy, and there is change and letting go. And change can be scary and disorienting and frightening, but it doesn't have to be if I trust. It doesn't have to be if I know there is a divine orchestration to things. And for instance, and this is a big shout out to Rachel, my assistant. I have an assistant, Rachel, who has worked for me for the past 2 years. And she has done my website and the digital stuff I do and anything in Canva, all the things that are not my wheelhouse. They have been her wheelhouse. And she has really captained the ship and produced so much incredible stuff. Well, she's been going through a big pivot, and I've been going through a big pivot in soul pathology in my business, and we both made the decision in December that it would be time for her to move on. And it was not dramatic, horrible, dysfunctional, none of those things. It was like we both knew. So we had to have a hard conversation together that was bittersweet. But I'm a cheerleader for her growth. She's in her 20s and like the world is her freaking oyster. And I'm like, I want you to level up and do your things and whatever makes you happy. And somebody else is going to come for me and appear. So it was hard in December, wrapping my brain around it, figuring it out, who's going to replace her. You all know the things. You walk through life too, and change is just, oh, it's a lot. But the beautiful thing that came through in January in trusting the change, and for me, it was not becoming overwhelmed. I get emotionally overwhelmed and can like mentally just mind, you know what, myself and start, going into fear. How am I going to do all this? How am I going to orchestrate it? Like that's the rhetoric. And it was like, I don't need to be afraid. I'm excited for her. It was time. I knew it was time. She knew it was time. And the universe is going to provide. God's going to provide. And sure enough, two cool things happen. One, I've ended up hooking up with a new assistant who has different talents and capabilities and overlapping ones, who's going to help bring forth the resources I'm talking about, up level my website, Soul Pathology, Soul Sessions with Amanda Green. Like he's going to do that. So we're going through a transition phase, which requires a lot more administrative work on my end, but I'm here for it. And then guess what? Rachel got an amazing new job in a career field that she is excited about. And y'all, when she told me, and it was a job that had popped up months ago, and she applied and never heard back, and then it popped up again and she applied, and after she and I had that conversation, it was like doors opened for me and this door opened for her, and she officially starts in early February. And I talked to her today, and she's like, I'm nervous about it, but it's what I want to do. And she's going to be working with children and children with some autism and disability. I mean, I am so over the moon. So, any change relationship wise you have going on, where can you let go with love and trust that, hey, this isn't happening to you? Maybe it's happening for you. Or I'm going to be trite again and say, maybe things aren't falling apart. Maybe they're falling together. And that's the most trite stuff I know. Maybe things aren't falling apart. Maybe they're falling together. Remember that this month. That's how the energy of February is going to feel. Pay attention, dig deep, upgrade your hardware system. And lastly, the 2 energy and the 11 is very sensitive and intuitive. And guess what? Mars is retrograde in Cancer. Sensitive, sensitive. So if you are wearing your heart on your sleeve and stuff is really getting your feelers, just step back and say, oh my gosh, my feelings are hurt. Or, oh my gosh, I'm making it all about me. Or maybe I'm being overly sensitive and I'm not on that person's brain 24/7. I'm thinking more of me than they are. Like that is probably the case. So just step away from yourself for a minute so you can come into a space of calm and ease. And that will give you a more clear perspective of, again, what's operating the show in the hard drive that may not be factual and actually may not be true. This is about finding your truth. So pay attention intuitively. I think dreams and intuitions and synchronicities are rapidly starting to accelerate. I'm seeing it all over the place. Other people are. So pay attention. And the more you pay attention, the more you acknowledge, you all know, the more downloads, the more information you will get. We are all intuitive, and there's a lot energetically happening in the universe, in our galaxy, and in our society and in the field. So know that you may feel super sensitive. What I would say to that, and this is a good go-to this month. If you feel overwhelmed, overly psychically, intuitively sensitive, and noticing that is the first thing, is like, oh my gosh, I'm just feeling so much. I can feel it. Like, I don't know what this means. It's overwhelming, and it can create anxiety. It can create depression, like lots of lethargy and feeling like you don't have energy. When you experience that, notice it and just say to your soul and your guides, hey, y'all, turn the volume down. I got it. I recognize I'm sensitive and my antenna is activated. Hey, I get it. I'm here to upgrade, but turn the volume down a little bit. My body's having a hard time processing this. my mind is, and I don't want to go into a deep stupor or slump. I don't want to default into denial or addiction or a deep depression. No way. Help this become sustainable to me. Turn the volume down. I think that's probably a great tool for this month. Okay, to start the month out astrologically, on February 4th, Venus will move into Aquarius. And Venus in Aquarius is so quirky. I love it. I love all the people I know whose natal Venus is in Aquarius because Aquarius is outside the box. It's revolutionary, it's radical, it dances to the beat of its own drum, which is what we love. And Venus is about love and relationships and money. So in Aquarius, love is radical. Love is different. My love doesn't look like your love. It's really quirky kind of love. And I want you to notice with Venus in Aquarius, because one element to Venus in Aquarius is emotional detachment, because Aquarius is so intellectual. It can be emotionally detached. That's all there is to it. The air signs have that quality, and with Venus in Aquarius, notice where you're avoiding, or maybe you're being less than tolerant, less than compassionate, because Venus in Aquarius is a little bit more didactic. It just is like, okay, that's it. Okay, fine, I'm done. Like it may be more abrasive, which I think is a fabulous thing to have on top of all this emotional sensitivity and psychic sensitivity I'm talking about, but utilize that to your advantage to recognize where you're being maybe a little detached or dismissive so you can find a middle ground between giving love and compassion, but also being gentle and compassionate with yourself. I also think with Venus and Aquarius, because Venus does rule finances and money, in Aquarius, Aquarius is about the future and innovation. I think it's a fabulous time to get creative with your money and your budget, and maybe even just your belief systems and intentions around that, like outside of the box money type things. And when I say that, what's coming to mind is diversifying ourselves as far as money and financial income. Are there other ways that you can bring in income? And also, not just physical income, how can you bring in different forms of abundance into your life in order to experience more freedom? Aquarius. On February 4th, same day as Venus moving into Aquarius, I have good news. Jupiter stations direct. And I tell you what, I'm here for it because Mars will station direct on the 23rd of this month. So we still got that. But Jupiter stations direct at 11 degrees. There's that number again, 11 degrees of Gemini. And it has been retrograde since October 9th. So it's a good time. What I do, remember that the days leading up, so as we move through the end of January and into the beginning of February, and I would say through around the 12th of February, Jupiter's going to be moving really slow, making that punctuation point in the energy field. Jupiter is about expansion. It's been retrograde in Gemini, which is our conscious working mind, our information gathering and sharing. So since October, we've been in a reprogram mode, and our expansion has been on our mind, our inner life, our thoughts, ourselves, which can be really annoying because I've felt the volume turned up in the rhetoric and the voice and the busyness in my head rather than the stillness and the slowdown and the meditation and the ease. That's not Jupiter in Gemini. But the beautiful thing is, with Jupiter stationing direct and having some forward momentum, you should have that we all should have gotten an upgrade in that department, especially you seekers out there who are growing and evolving and healing. It's an upgrade in our mental capacity, our intellect, and also our ability to communicate. So this is a beautiful gift alongside of the astrology and the two energy this month to communicate in a more mature way. Say what you mean what you say, come from a space of compassion, but use your gift of your voice, the voice in your head and the voice externally, to create greater success, empowerment, and figure out where Jupiter is in your chart, in your natal chart at 11 degrees. So you know what house it's in and what it's been working on. But once Jupiter moves direct, things start to happen. Things start to expand. So give it a little bit of time. I think we'll feel it more so into March, but give it a little bit of time to get some traction in the sky. But I would absolutely review from October, early October through now, as far as what you've been learning, because Gemini is about learning. What have you learned about yourself, or what have you learned, period, in the last handful of months, and how are you going to take action around that? How are you going to reflect through your communication the maturity of what you learned? That's where you get your growth spurt in maturity with that. February 7th, Neptune is conjunct the North Node. And I want to mention this because the North Node of the moon shifted into Pisces in mid early January. So we have this new energy, and I've talked about it a lot. You can definitely go back to my podcast with Hannah's Elsewhere, where we talked about astrology and what that meant. But Neptune, which rules Pisces, is conjunct the North Node in Pisces. And this is one of those days. So, like February 6th, 7th, and 8th, like right in that time frame, it is intuitive. It's like cosmic downloads, upgrades, dreams. It's one of those rich, germinating times where I think it's great to get still, to go within, to journal, get out in nature. I know it's cold, it's the winter, in the northern hemisphere. Whatever that looks like for you, practice your spiritual life, flex those muscles in that time, set some wishes, seed some intentions, get in touch with your spirit and your highest ideals without any attachment. Like in an ideal scenario, what would the most loving, amazing outcome be? This is the time for that. And on the flip side, there can be delusion, like delusional thinking. So pay attention in those days and like don't get hoodwinked. I feel like sometimes when we have that much energy with both Neptune and the North Node, and we've got them in Pisces, and it's like a precursor into some energy we're about to experience. I feel like liars, cheaters, and thieves come out. And I'm just saying that as like a broad stroke, meaning, are you being authentic? Are you being on the up and up? Are you coming from your highest character integrity? Or are you trying to undercut someone else, undermine someone else? Or are you being naive and trusting someone who maybe hasn't earned your trust? So just pay attention to signing on the dotted line those days, triple read the contract, kind of like I would say in Mercury retrograde, but use it to seed some big wishes from your soul and let the universe do its magic. On February 14th, which is Valentine's Day, Mercury enters Pisces. That's kind of sweet because Pisces is about universal love and ideals and romance and creativity, and at the divine level, right? It is poetic and creative. It is this it's such an idealistic energy that is ecstatic. Like it's ecstasy kind of energy. It's bliss. It's the world could be amazing. We are amazing. And then what happens is when we don't meet those expectations, Piscean energy gets disappointed, disillusioned, so upset because it's sensitive. It's energetically, spiritually sensitive. But on Valentine's Day, we've got Mercury moving into Pisces. So the thinking mind is moving into the unknown, the unconscious realm. So psychic energy, that energy of the 11 in the numerology, your antenna is going to fine tune a little bit more in that time frame while Mercury is in Pisces. And Mercury, just so you know, will retrograde in March. So right now, Mercury is moving direct. This is again very fertile time to work with your intuitive energy and your psychic energy. I'm going to back up for a second because on the 12th, there's a new moon in, no, sorry, a full moon. There's a full moon in Leo and it's at 24 degrees of Leo. So February 12th is a full moon. That means the sun is in Aquarius. Remember that the sun is Aquarius right now. And the moon will be at directly opposite the sun at 24 degrees of Leo. Leo is about creative self expression. When we have a full moon in a fire sign, I'm here for it. because usually there's a little bit of oomph, a little bit of pizzazz, a little bit of showing off, being out in the world, feeling social. So pay attention to that. And one thing I love about a Leo full moon is it's about feeling seen and recognized and allowing yourself to be seen. So if you're one of those people that really has a hard time receiving, meaning accepting a compliment, like really taking a compliment, taking it in, or being in charge of something and it's overwhelming or it creates anxiety, being front and center, being the leader of your life is what Leo is about. This is a full moon to set bold intentions to heal where you have shied away from being seen, being recognized, utilizing your creative self expression, because ultimately Leo is about the heart and generosity, shining our light in the world. It is ruled by the sun. So it is about creative renewal and self expression and the joy of creative self expression, the delight that comes from that. So think about where you have not felt fun, not felt joyful and silly and playful. And how can you incorporate that? How can you make a set intentions, make a pact with yourself over the course of the next month from the 12th onward to invite in more playful, creative, joyful, self expressive energy? And with the sun in Aquarius, which is more oriented towards the community versus the individual, think about the communities that you're involved in and ask yourself, do my affiliations, associations, friendships, and connections, do they support and encourage my hopes, wishes, and dreams? Or do they diminish and hold me back and keep me in a stasis? That's probably the biggest question you might want to really consider. And it doesn't mean that you take action around it and cut people off and make big change on the full moon. You become aware and you ask the universe, that's at 11 energy, the universe to co create with you to help you make shifts so your community affiliations and friendships are really operating at a frequency that keeps you growing and moving higher. And are you contributing the same thing? On February 18th, the sun will enter Pisces. So the game changes from more intellectual, futuristic, radical, kind of motivating energy of Aquarius to that more sensitive, creative, ethereal, mystical energy of Pisces. When the sun moves into Pisces, and as I said, Mercury will be in Pisces, Saturn is in Pisces, Neptune is in Pisces, the North Node is in Pisces, we are about to hit a big genre of more planets in one big sign and big outer planets coming together in the last degrees of Pisces. It's pretty huge over the course of early March, but that energy is is sensitive, energetically, psychically, spiritually sensitive. So your opportunity is in making sure that you are grounded and that you are engaging your spiritual practices, your personal developmental practices and your spiritual practices, whether it is grounding, meditating, sitting down and enjoying a meal, anything that adds value to your spiritual enrichment. Where can you employ that and do it consistently or dedicate yourself to it? So you are harnessing all of that mystical energy and you're grounding it in to your timeline, your reality. And just watch out because it's so idealistic. And with all these planets up in Pisces, we can get so dreamy and idealistic that we set ourselves up for delusion or disappointment and letdown. So practice your grounded intuition, your realism, but also stretch your energy up to the cosmos. Talk to your guides, talk to your soul, and this will also help with reprogramming the hard drive that we've been talking about. Last but not least, well, two more things. Mars goes direct February 23rd. Hallelujah. Thank you. I'm here for this. I will be ready for Mars to move direct. We will have more extroverted traction and energy, but it's still going to be in Cancer through April. So we're not off of the roller coaster ride yet. However, with Mars stationing direct, just pay attention. I would say like the 20th to the 26th, because Mars will be very stationary in the sky and reorienting itself in its orbit. Pay attention to your sensitivities and see where you can maybe respond versus overreacting, because it's sensitive, it's psychic, it can be very touchy. And Mars is a freaking fighter. It's bold, it's in your face, and Cancer is sensitive and nurturing and loving. So sparks may fly, and I'm not talking the romantic kind. I'm meaning like you might be a little hot headed or touchy. Just pay attention those days. Like, okay, take a breath, step back. What am I learning from this? Maybe that's not true. Maybe I need more data. For goodness sakes, Jupiter's going to be going direct in Gemini. Gather your data, get your facts together before you jump to a conclusion. But with Mars direct, we will feel that more into March, and there will be more, I feel like more traction and immediate gratification. I don't mean that things are just going to be happening, but our vitality will shoot back up, and our energy and our motivations. And that's kind of that end of that hard drive upgrade where the rubber meets the road. Think of it that way. At the end of the month, we close out the month with a new moon in Pisces, and it's at 9 degrees of Pisces. And I can't remember the exact number, but the new moon on the 29th of January is at 9 degrees of Aquarius. The new moon in December was at 9 degrees. And we've got a whole series of new moons at 9 degrees. And you all know we're in a 9 year, and you know what the energy of the nine is about. It is about growth and maturity and wisdom and completion and letting go and surrender. So, this new moon at the end of February is basically a spark of, it's a quantum leap kind of energy. So I will do a full on new moon in Pisces episode, a bonus episode for everyone as it gets closer to time, because this is one of those new moons where it is a spiritual upgrade new moon, that utilizing the energy, the numerology, the astrology, your own intentions, figuring it out where it is in your natal chart. This is one of those new moons where it's like, I want everybody to take the time to really utilize and immerse yourself in the energy that is, it's a very mystical energy. And I think utilizing it wisely will demonstrate or pave the way for the months ahead. Because as we move into March, not only will Mercury retrograde, we enter eclipse season. So there's a lot of like, there's stuff about to happen. So utilize February wisely. Remember, it's a month of maturity, relationships, and upgrading your hard drive. Dig your heels in, trust in divine timing, and also really recognize that no matter what is going on in your life, whether it is hard and scary and painful, or you're coasting and you feel like you're just going through the motions, or you're having breakthroughs, wherever you are, it is valuable. It has meaning and purpose. There is something divinely orchestrating around you to help you create this higher frequency of living that is unfolding as we speak. Thank you all for your energy and your attention. And I hope that this month for all of us, we dig in, we level up, because that energy, our individual energy overflows into the tipping point of the collective. And it's happening. I feel it and see it. And that's the ship we're on. Be well, everyone.